Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. This is the first time we've done this particular type of podcast, but we just wanted to kind of set the stage to make sure that all of our new hires have a very successful start. And that includes HR and then also from the technical support team. So I'm Rodney Cates from HR, and we've got Sean from the technical support team, the IT group. So we're going to take you through a few things today. And if you'll notice on your screen, you have the option to send in questions, and then we've got a group of folks that's going to answer those. And while we're going through the program, and if there's something that needs more explanation, then Sean and I will be sure and do that toward the end of the program. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So we just wanted to kind of cover some of the HR things regarding new hires, and we know we have some new managers, and some of this might not be new to everybody, but we just wanted to highlight some key things on the HR part, and then I'm going to turn it over to Sean to highlight some key things on the technical support team. So in the HR process, as you know, getting a person on board, first of all, we have to post the job, and we do that through TruePay. That's on the Madera website, but then also we use some other websites, which is LinkedIn and Indeed, and also we've even used some of the TAA websites. So there's different ways to get the jobs posted, and we all know that it's very critical out there to try to find people because there's just a shortage, and so we're doing the best we can to do things like that. And if you have ideas, let us know. But anyway, we get those jobs posted. They go through the interview process, which you as the manager review those applications and resumes. And also we have a document that can help managers during the interview process, and that's questions to ask that you can't, and also you can't ask. And if you'd like to have a copy of that, if you don't have one already, reach out to Maricela in HR, and she'll be glad to send that to you. So once the offer letter is created, sometimes we have a manager creates it, but majority of the time HR will create the offer letter. The letter goes to the candidate, and once they accept the offer, then it comes back to HR, and then what we'll do a process where regarding the drug screen and background check. Now sometimes the managers will give the individual the NOVA form to take to the clinic, but then sometimes HR will send the NOVA form or send it to the individual, and they can take it to the clinic. But then HR also starts the background process with universal background. So one thing you'll see is that when the drug screen comes back in the background, HR will give a notification to the employee and also to the manager that the person's ready to move to the next step in the hiring process. Now, once in a while, we might have a concern about the drug screen. If there is a delay on the drug screen, majority of the time it's always with the MRO. MRO stands for Medical Review Officer, and this is where a person may have taken have a prescription that has some type of narcotic or some kind of drug formula in there that creates a spike on the drug test. And a lot of times employees or the candidate will send us hey, I'm on this prescription, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, for HIPAA, we really don't need to know what prescription you're on. So the MRO will take that and then make the recommendation whether to proceed or not proceed. Usually we get the drug screens back within a day or two unless there is an issue. On the background checks, we've got them back as soon as a day. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days. We've had some that's outside that parameter. A lot of that depends on where they've lived and how many places they've lived. But typically we get them in a reasonable time frame. Then the HR will send the email to the new hire about, hey, here's your start date. We need information about your I-9, and be sure and send those documents to us. And typically we can't tell the person what documents they need for the I-9, but on the back of the I-9 there's a list of all the different documents that they can proceed. And I'll come back to the I-9s here in just a second. But once we do that, once Angel in HR sends the email about here's all the different things that the new hire is going to have to go through the onboarding process, those things are like the direct deposit, getting their email set up, signing some of the documents. If you're on one of the properties, here's the commission policy and things like that. So those are things that the new hire will need to work through. And also they'll have a copy of the email from TruePay. And once they get into TruePay, that's where working with you as a manager and then themselves, they go through and make those selections and indicate that they've completed those items. Also during that process, Angel will send the information to Sean and his team on the technical support to indicate here's the things that were being set up. And when we say those things being set up, it's like the Google, the Jostle, the TruePay, the Gray Seal, Employee Navigator, right now media, and other instructions about how to create your signature line on the email address. So those are the things that Angel sends to them to help get started. She's not the person on the technical support team that maybe can fix some of those things, but we'll cover that here in a second. So once HR gives that grant or gives that initial grant access to them, then things start happening. And that's where also the email, the calendar, the Google Calendar, and then also the share drive. And then next, the technical support team comes in and looks at, okay, is everything set up? Do they have the right apps? And if you're on a property, do you have these certain apps? Or if you're in accounting, you have these specific applications. And so that's where Sean will talk here in just a second. And then HR will send that welcome email to thank you, the person joining the team. And that's what's real critical during this first day, or at least for sure the first couple of days, but making sure that person has a great first impression of Madeira companies, because we want to retain that person. And as you know, when a person gets started, if they have issues, whether it's trying to get into the HR system or trying to get into one of the items that Sean will talk about, we just don't want to have those frustrations for those folks, because we want to make sure they have a great first onboarding experience with us. So the hiring managers, one thing that's critical that on the I-9 is that we use a company that's outside of Madeira to do what we call E-Verify. They take that information, whatever documents that the employee gave you as a manager and gave HR, they verify that information. And by law, we have 3 days to make that happen. And when I say 3 days, I'm talking about from start to finish. So if a manager waits till the third day and say like the end of the day, well then HR might not have time to do their piece to make that 3-day window. So it's very critical that we get that information in on the I-9s, and the managers have to look at the I-9 to make sure you're the eyes that have actually seen the document, and then we go through the process of getting that verified through E-Verify. So there's a lot of activity that takes place like that for a new hire. And so the other thing that we've started, and we've had 2 beta groups, and we're going to do the first class will be June the 8th. And it's about like a 1-hour session. And this is where Lacey Daniels comes in as the Director of Training and Development. So she's going to come in with those group of folks on a Zoom call, and she's going to go over some items that through the new hire process, things to know about Madeira, what's some next steps, what to expect. And again, our purpose is to make sure that our new hires have a great onboarding experience and know about our culture and values here at Madeira. So when we transition from HR to technical support, a couple of things I want to mention before I turn it over to Sean is that I really appreciate the leaders helping us out and getting the new hires started. You know, Angel and Maricela do a great job trying to make sure that we hit all the compliance and regulations and things that we have to do to make sure everything's on board. And we just want to make sure that we can help those people through that process. And again, if you have questions about the hiring process, you can send us an email, or you can send a Q&A, or put in a question on the Q&A piece, and we'll get back to you. So now I'd like to turn it over to Sean and let him kind of talk about the technical support team and things to expect to help make sure that person has a great first week But then also not just that first week, but we know that throughout a person's career, things break. It's just the way things happen. And so maybe something's not working right. And so I think Sean has a great process to help folks feel comfortable that they can get those things addressed. So Sean?
Hey, thanks, Robbie. That was a lot. And I hope what you take away from today is that we're trying to establish a little bit of a separation between the employee onboarding experience and the employee work experience. So that separation is really where the technology piece comes into play and the different applications that you need access to. So when we talk about the employee onboarding experience, we're really talking about things that every employee gets as part of Madeira companies. And that would be things like TruePay and Employee Navigator and email. Those things are a constant. So we have set up some groups to kind of help us navigate those pieces. So when we get a request for somebody that's needing accounting access, there's a suite of applications that can be pushed to the dashboard and then individual access associated. And that's really what I want to start diving into. So I'm going to start a quick screen share. Every employee gets email. Every employee gets Jostle. And it's really important that we help clarify the separation of those things as we kind of work through our day-to-day process. So if we get an email response of, hey, I need help with something, the more information we have around that, the better. But we also want to eliminate a lot of headaches that occur from just sending emails. So you may send an email to Angel requesting Jostle access, and she may be able to help you with that, and she may not be, or she may be out, and that email may sit there for a period of time, or it goes to somebody who doesn't have the ability to assist you with that. We want to really help eliminate those headaches and then provide additional tracking along that path. So as we're looking at that, we're really talking about a separation of responsibilities and a tracking of your access. So when we do that, that's where you end up with different icons on your dashboard. So I'm going to start solely in Jostle, and we're going to walk through two of the new forms that are out there to help with that process. Y'all may be familiar with one of them. I know we had some issues with it, and we did get those corrected. So we'll do a little bit of a live demo on that as well. So if I'm in Jostle, that's step one. In the library section, if you have it defaulted as one of your favorites, you'll see it immediately as under your favorites. And the one we're going to look at first is called I Need Help. If you do not see it here, you can go to Browse, and then you'll go to Help Technology, and then it's kind of an extra burdensome step, but open this drawer, and you'll see both of those forms. So any forms related to technology help, we're going to put in this location. And if you star them by clicking the star right here, it'll put it in your favorite section. Which brings up the next question. Well, what if I can't get into Jostle? That is an area where I know there's a little bit of gap. So workarounds for that would be get with your supervisor, get with your manager, have them submit a help request on your behalf. You can also save this link into one of your favorites and use it at any time. You don't have to access it through Jostle, but they're always here, so that way you can always find them. So if I open I Need Help, initially it's going to authenticate to your email address. So I know that it's being submitted by Sean at MadeiraResidential.com, and I'm going to go ahead and fill out some information. So if I was submitting one for myself, I'm going to put in just my own name, and obviously I don't know how to spell my name, and then I would put in my own email address. I'm just going to keep that short, and then a way to get a hold of me. This is important, as a lot of times if we don't clearly understand what it is you're needing or the problem, we need to really just get you on the phone and eliminate all that back and forth communication. Now, the next section is really the big differentiator when we're saying you need help. So there are three sections, and then there's another for when you have optional issues. Those sections are Jostle, Google Dashboard, and then specific applications. So let's kind of run those backwards. So a specific application could be TruePay, it could be Nuco, it could be Checkpoint ID, It could be Avid or any of those specific applications. So that's typically what you will get a response for this is, hey, I'm having trouble logging into this. I had access, it's not working. That's where we need to start drawing the line. So there's access to those are handed out, and then you get the tile on your Google dashboard. That's the second section. If you're missing the tile, tell us you have a Google dashboard issue. If you click on the tile and your access is not working, so it takes you to TruePay, but it's not going to log you in. We have a lot of this around Grace Hill, which we'll touch on in a minute. But when you click on it and it takes you there and it doesn't get you in, submit that as a specific application. If you're in Google Dashboard and you're missing something, that's a Google Dashboard issue. Or if I click on it and it doesn't take me anywhere, that's a Google Dashboard issue. That really helps us narrow it down. If it's anything in Jostle, so I can't get to the library, I don't see my news feed, I don't have the right workspaces, any of those issues, those are Jostle issues. That really helps us narrow it down, because a lot of times this is what we'll get. Somebody will send in an email and they'll say, hey, I need help, my Google is broken. And that's all the information we have. We may not have a number to reach them, so we'll send an email back. Sorry to hear that. What is going on? And after working through a few things, it's not necessarily Google, it was their antivirus locked up their computer, and it was the computer issue. And so there's all these different pieces that can happen, and the more information you provide to that, the quicker and better that will be. So this typically leads into a couple questions other than Grace Hill. It's how fast am I going to get when I say I need help? What can I expect? The policy that we're working on putting in place is we will reply to you same day, within reason. If it's 4:59, it may not be till the next morning, but we will do our best to reply same day, and we'll do our best to have resolution within 48 hours. That's not always acceptable. Some things are blockers. I can't do my job because of this. That's going to go to the top of the stack. So we'll work on prioritizing those, and we're going to work on communicating as openly and as freely as we can through that process. The other piece that we have in here is the software access request. So every employee, as we were talking about the groups, you get a group of your base software package. So that's going to be email, TruePay, Employee Navigator, Jostle, those types of things. Everyone gets that. If you're a property level employee, we don't know exactly what your job duties are going to entail. And every property is a little bit different. So a leasing agent at property A may need access into a few more applications than a leasing agent at property B. And to help us account for that, we need to go to the software access request form. That's going to help us from a few areas. One, we'll be able to know exactly what access we need to provide. That will reflect on your Google dashboard as well. And then if there's any change to that employee, whether they switch properties or they switch job functions, we'll be able to go in and make appropriate access request adjustments. So this is to help alleviate, again, you're sending an email. A lot of those go into HR, which is a great spot to start that, but we really want to get you onto the software access request form where we have a team of individuals that are watching that, make sure they have access to all the right things. So I'm going to go ahead and open this one up. So it is set up to be able to go forwards and backwards. So you can, again, submit it for yourself, put in the manager information is there for when we need to confirm that is okay. So that's going to be on more of your sensitive data applications. And then we have a pretty extensive checklist of applications. So as you run through that, if you saw one that was missing, or you notice one was missing, that's where you're going to do the other part.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it, Ryan.
So sometimes in HR we'll get the email about, hey, I need access to a shared drive. Is this the same thing that they'll use on? Even though it might not be an application, but
that is a great question. So
I didn't know if that's where you put other there.
We don't have a specific spot for that, but we will add one more line on the bottom of this form for shared
Okay.
drives. So
Okay.
that's a great one.
I didn't
And
mean to put you on the spot
No.
in front of everybody.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
Somebody needed to. As we get a lot of those requests too, and we are working to try to centralize some of that access to some of those shared drives to eliminate and alleviate that request pressure. A lot of those come with the leasing forms, and those leasing forms, most people need them. And so we're working on getting that converted, make sure everybody has access to it, and just kind of ease that process. But if you're missing one, we'll have a Google Drive checkbox here at the bottom, and you can say, I need access to the Madera Properties folder or Madera Properties and your property name, and we'll take care of that access for you. So to touch quickly on wrapping up this process, we have 5 individuals that watch both the I Need Help and the application request forms. So we have a good amount of staff to help assist with that. If it's a brand new employee, we still need you to fill out this form. We don't know everything they need, and HR doesn't know everything they need, and we need y'all's assistance in getting that in there. And then,
Like when they're transferring, I see they're on.
yeah, whether they're transferring or it's their first day. If you need NUCO, I need you to put I need NUCO. We'll take care of any questions that need to follow up with that. We just don't know what we don't know until you tell us. But it's very important that we're tracking that, so that way any modifications to that employee, we can go back in and make adjustments to that as well. All right, so let's touch on, since I mentioned it, we'll go ahead and touch on Grace Hill. We are still working through some technical difficulties with Grace Hill on eliminating the whole need for the password. Bear with us. I feel like we're right there. I submitted new files to them yesterday. As they get those in place, hopefully everything is wrapped up by Monday. But until then, we'll still need you to reach out to Angel and HR and do a password request from the individual needing access. And then that'll get you in. So if you're on Google Dashboard and you click on Grace Hill right here, it's not going to take you in. And that's a limitation on their side that we're working around. But we're very, very close on that. Thank you, everybody, for the patience, but we will get there. Ronnie, I think that wraps it up for me, unless...
Well, one thing I was going to mention, I appreciate everybody's time, but I was going to make a comment because you had Jostle pulled up.
Yeah.
And this is, of course, a new great tool. And as you know, we did away with the employee newsletter. And this is just a great opportunity for folks to look at Jostle, see what the news is going on within the Madera companies, see about birthdays, anniversaries, and things like that. But then also it's the opportunity to see new articles, and Josh Haynes has been putting out some great information about that, and of course we've even put out some HR required information. So it's just a good avenue that you can gather information and read that and see what's going on within the Madera companies. And also, as Sean mentioned, on the left hand side there's those different pop-ups, and the job postings are there, and the teams, and the news, and as I mentioned, so just a lot of opportunities there to keep up with what's going on.
Hey, you brought up a good point I forgot to mention with relation to Jostle. So Jostle is set up for the employee, and then you have some controls in there, but we really need you to hold to one thing, and then I'll make you one more commitment. As you're working through Jostle, and then as you're submitting I Need Help forms or software access request forms, please make sure that you're using your full proper name. As we reference that back, that's the connection that gets us all the way back through. And with that connection, a process we're also starting is once a week, we will go in and do a TruePay export, and then we have to marry that data up, so match that data with the Jostle data, and we'll send in updates regarding birthday, month, and day, property that you're currently working at, company that you're currently working at. We have a few of those. We can jump around now. And we'll be running that process, and keeping those things in sync is really going to help us make sure that that goes as smooth as possible and that everything is where it needs to be. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks, Ronnie.
Well, thank you for joining us today. I don't think there's any, do we have?
Would you please speak to how we handle apps with floaters?
Oh, that's a tough one. So if
You might have to repeat the question.
yeah, so the question was, how do we handle application access for floaters? So that is a good question. We typically run that on a broader access. So if we know the floater is going to be between 4 different locations, then we will go ahead and provision them access to all 4 locations. I know that can change, and that unfortunately we'll need to just make a new software access request. We'll review that form and make sure it's clear to just say, hey, I want everything I currently have on Nuco. Just click Nuco again and say adding a new property. So we'll make sure there's not just a transfer, but additional location support needs to get added to that form as well. So we'll get that added.
Do they use a new form every time?
Yes, so it'll be a new form every time. You can submit unlimited forms. It's really just 1 form per person or 1 form per incident. So if Josh needed access to Nuco, he would submit it, and then he realized he also needs access to Funnel, he'd just submit a new one, and we'll take care of it from there.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank you for spending time with us today. Hopefully this was very helpful to talk about the onboarding process, not just the HR piece, but also the technical support, because I know there's a lot of moving parts, and we appreciate the managers out there, what they do to make sure that person does have a great onboarding experience, and they really have enjoyed their first few days at Madera. But then also, we just know that there's things that happen throughout their career, whether, as mentioned, maybe they're becoming a floater and there's going to have more opportunities and expand their responsibilities. So maybe they need more access. So these are great things that we need to address, which Sean's team is doing. And we just want to be there for you to help you to be successful as a manager, but also make sure their folks are successful. I know we probably didn't capture everybody on the video today. If so, we have recorded this, and Jacob and Josh will get this all put together, and we'll put it out there for others to review. And maybe you might have had a question that has come up, and send it to us, and we can answer that after today. So, other than that, have a great day, and appreciate it. And I'm glad Sean didn't give me a zinger question since I gave him one, but he'll pay me back somehow.
Yeah,
down the road.
I'm holding up on it. I got one for you.
Okay. Well, thank y'all.
Thank you, everyone.